just share a little bit about what we're going to do first. So the part of what we'll talk about today is about not just resilience circles, but also the circles of resilience. And what we mean by this is we have found for ourselves in our work, in our living together, that there's too much of focus on the mind. You know, we think a lot, we talk a lot, and by doing this and living our lives this way, we found there's some kind of imbalance, and somehow life becomes too heavier than it needs to be. And by focusing on other than just the mind, but also focusing on the spirit, on the heart, we found we can live more harmoniously and more in balance. So that's why we'll ask you just to stand up in front of your camera, you know, and we'll just do a little exercise, because everybody's probably just sitting all day long, you know, just, talking, typing, all of that stuff. You know, it's better to just make sure your heart beats a bit faster, the blood can flow through your veins. And so what we'll do is we'll do some jumping jacks. Everybody knows jumping jacks. You know, like this. All right. It may look a bit silly, but it's good purpose. So let's do it. One, yes. And okay. A bit faster. Yes.
Wow. Great! Wow. You're doing great, guys. Come on, guys. Come on, dude. Come on, Albert.
All right. There's a little variation we want to try, like this. You go to the right. You have to put some intention in those moves.
Come on, let's do this.
Shake off all that stress, you know? All right, thank you. Wonderful. For being crazy enough to do this with us.
Thank you. Great. You're still jumping.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk a bit about this later in this session. The reason why we do this, catching a breath now. So it is about resilience, you know, and it is about making sure we live our lives in a balanced way. But we'll talk about circles and why we do circles too. Just to begin, we would like to put some questions in the middle, and we would like to ask you to answer them in the chat. So I'll begin by asking you a simple question: where are you from? Just type it in the chat box. So Belgium's represented. Very good. Okay, thank you. Next question. What was the first thing you drank this morning? I see Finland's represented as well. Sparkling water. I see tea. Monster. That's energy drink.
Yes.
Okay, what was the last thing you drank? Robert finished his day with a beer, and Tina, as usual, with a glass of water. Not surprised there. Tea, chamomile, and mint. Beautiful. Okay, next question. how do you keep yourself fit? You know, how do you make sure you stay fit, physically fit? A daily walk with the dog for Jeroen. Tina goes running.
Welcome.
Goes,
Welcome, Glenn, who drinks chamomile and mint tea. If you can, you may also ask me permission on the screen. Then you can join us. It will be fun.
The short bursts of exercise and breaks from work. That's good. That's pretty much what we do. Next question. Favorite section in the bookshop. So when you go to the bookshop or to a library, which section do you prefer? Where do you go to? Oh, the new psychology for
Waar komt het liefst?
Cooking and hobbies for Jeroen. Psychology, theology. I go to religion, fiction. For Glenn. Right, beautiful. Next question. How do you feel right now?
Is mijn lekker weer? Mijn is op stil. Ja, ik moet op stil zijn.
Good time for Glenn. Awesome for Tina. The best for Sarah. Oh, don't be stressed, man. We'll be fine. We've had the work. Okay, I can say I feel relieved because we did this session this morning as well, and you know, the technical setup was a bit messy and it didn't go that well because of that. So it was very frustrating for us. But it seems to go better this way, so I'm happy with that. Okay, next question. What's on your mind right now? This session for Kai. Yeah, Sarah. Hi, Sarah. Yeah, Venu, I hear you. You like spend.
Hi, Sarah.
At the moment. All right. Final question for the chat right now. We're wondering, like, why did you choose to come here? Why did you choose to come to this session? What's your motivation to be here?
I feel like it's going worse, and it's like huge, and the more I'm like trying to strain and like push my brain to do it, the more it's like pushing back. I don't know if I just need to.
All right, Venu writes for a journal and is looking for some inspiration, maybe some examples. Robert looking for some ideas, new knowledge. Looking for positive solutions, Sarah. Thanks. So what we'll be doing is we'll be talking. Glenn, you saw circles and thought of something we started. Actually, you're right. We are big on restorative, and we are. So we'll explain a little bit like how we use circles in our organization. Maybe first those people who are not familiar with our Oranjehuis, we can talk a little bit about who we are, what we do. I mean, keep it brief, but Tina, you wanna take that part for you?
Yes, I'm trying to open. I'm trying to open our documents, and apparently, Michael, when all the rest function, that doesn't function anymore. Microsoft Office is hanging there. But I'm going to tell you something about Oranjehuis. So we are located in we are an organization who have around 100 employees. We organize actually all kind of activities. Our mission strengthen our between people and we also try to prevent exclusion. And we have always confidence in the own strengths of the people who are involved. We work with 3 kinds of different frameworks. We work with positive reorientation. We work with restorative practices because we are an institution that is restorative. And we work with experiential. And so we organize all kinds of initiatives from very preventive until to very responsive. So we have all kinds of entities. So we have a farm, an ecological farm, where people can help, where people can work, where youngsters can go. We have a residential unit where youngsters, among others, Fleur, also live together on a studio or in a group. We have units where our educators help youngsters to live alone. We have also special programs for youth offenders who committed crime, or for intensive programs for youngsters who use a lot of substance, so alcohol or drugs. So we have all kinds of activities and programs, and actually in whole of Oranjehuis, the youngster and their family, their network is always central. So they are in charge, and we try to make movement together with them, together. So that's in short what we do. And around in 1 year, we probably guide around 400 youngsters and families in organization. So that's what I try to explain. But see, I can't open my PowerPoint. He is still turning circles.
Just going to slow down the system, and we're doing good now, so it's fine. Now, I want to point out from what you just said, you said what we do together, and I think if we look across all activities, the word together is probably the most important one, and I don't think that's anything new for, I suppose, but we're always trying to make those who are part of a conflict, part of a situation, we want to make those responsible to take up responsibility. In finding solutions, that's the most sustainable way for to work. What's also, and that's when we come to the topic of today. Like one of the techniques, one of the practices that runs through all of our activities as well are circles. So whether we're talking about supporting a class group, or working with a family, or working in group at the residential home, or team meetings, we work with circles, because for us it is a very well, it's a way to give everybody a voice, and it's also a way to build a connection between the people. And for us, this connection between people, the relationships, strengthening the relationships between people, is the foundation of everything we do. So, I mean, I can from the experience of being an employee within this organization and the experience of how it feels to take part in circles many times a week with my colleagues, and what the effect is on me and on the atmosphere, the culture of the organization. You know, I can honestly say I have a lot of friends at my work, because when we come to work and we share in circles, we don't come just as a professional, we come as a whole person. You know, it's a whole package. You know, we don't hesitate to share what's on, hesitate to share our emotions, things that we care about, and we talk about the things that make us sad and all of that. So that's what we do, you know. So I can talk about this, what it means for me. Fleur, she can talk about what it means to be in circles in a residential home, and maybe we can go into this. What we also like to share with you guys is, I mean, everybody here has been touched, affected by Corona. Behind the screen, we probably would be in the same room and actually sitting. But we see this, and we're moved by this, to see all these young people and all these human beings being affected by this. But we're also touched by the fact that often people don't talk enough about this. You know, like we just had the Easter break from schools. Students go back to school, but a lot of the teachers, they forget to actually talk about this and to ask their children, like, how are you doing? How are you being affected by this? So we figured maybe we can just do a little here, just as a way of example, because that's also what we've done as an organization. We've sent out formats to all schools and organizations that work with young people in Flanders, raise awareness and to ask them to have this kind of conversation with their youngsters, to ask them, like, how have you been affected by COVID months? What's been the hardest thing for you? But also, what have you done to cope with the situation? What's something that has helped you? And we figured we to give you all the word, you know, and just answer the same question, like, how have you been most affected by COVID, by Corona? And what's one thing that has helped to my question? So, and rather than asking to answer in the chat, maybe it'd be good to have some people share phone and share how you've been affected by this COVID situation. I would like to start.
I don't mind talking about the impact on the work environment under COVID. That'd be okay?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
So I think as soon as we had to work from home, you realize how much you share at work, not just in the formal meetings, but in the informal chats, the jokes, when you've had a very difficult, stressful phone call, maybe that and someone is struggling at work, there's, there'll be, oh, do you want a cup of tea? Or if you smoke, the smokers will go out and have a cigarette. And how much people learn from each other at work, not just in the formal meetings, but in just overhearing how people are working. We've had 2 new staff members arrive during COVID, and having them inducted has been incredibly difficult. So I guess what we've tried to do is replicate some of that as best you can virtually. So we've had morning meetings, and they're more like just catch-ups, not like a formal meeting. And we have, for anybody towards the end of the day, drop-ins. So people have had a difficult day, or they can just share and offload some information. We also have what we call an inappropriate WhatsApp group, where stuff that you might shared, which wasn't probably work, but you'd share it at work, jokes or comments, or just that how you deal with stress at times in the work situation. You're not always appropriate, you're inappropriate, and that's a way of dealing with what can be very stressful work. So we have that going, and people access that when they want to. So that's it in quite brief.
Yeah. I would like to agree, because could I?
Anyone else would like to share something?
I agree Robert's speech, because we have also in our working place, we have a structure where is the morning coffee, and we are also eating lunch together, and now it's gone. So there is no such a structure anymore, but we have once in a week we have a coffee in Teams. So that's the only thing which we have at the moment, but it has been quite hard. But in Finland, the situation hasn't been so bad if you compare many other countries. So we have been more or less outside, and we could have seen some people from the family and some of the working mates also. But of course, there are different kind of cultures in different kind of organizations also in Finland. But
thank you.
yes.
All right. Anyone else?
Share something? I can follow Michael.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
For me, it made me realize about how I was lost a bit of my freedom, that I couldn't go and do anything as I thought I wanted to do like before. And it made me thinking about people who really lose their freedom in a way, like youngsters who are placed in closed institutions, people who are placed in prison. I was thinking like, oh my God, put myself 1 week in a prison. Now I have difficulties to, because I don't have my freedom, but then I wouldn't have my freedom for even take a shower or something. So it puts things in perspective. It made me think about things. And I don't know if I have to already tell about how I dealt with it, Michael, or is that for the second?
No.
Yeah. So the things that. Yeah, the things that supported me was that I'm very grateful and lucky that I work in Oranjehuis, Oranjehuis, because here we made a choice to stay human and to stay near the families. So we kept doing our job. I came almost every day to work. I had to protect myself, of course. We had some risk maybe, but we can protect ourselves, but we can't sacrifice the families for that. So I was very grateful, because in that way I could continue my life a bit like before, and I saw a lot of my colleagues, and I had still connection. So yeah, for me it was a luxury to work here. So I'm very grateful that we did it like that. And I don't know Fleur, if you also. Fleur also gonna tell something.
Wat de eerste vraag is?
Hoe dat u het effect had op je.
So how affected COVID my life? I think I lost a lot because of COVID. Because of the start of the lockdown, I lost my job and school stopped and everything went a bit harder. Also, I've noticed like I'm not pretty good at speaking with a lot of people. I get really stressed about that, and I really feel that COVID made that worse, because you don't see people as much as you used to, and you're getting used to not seeing people. What makes it see big groups?
Yeah.
And what helped me, probably my cats.
Lovely cats, by the way. They're running here around in the garden, but you can't see them. Eh? Yeah. That's it.
Great, thank you, Fleur.
Thank you.
Maybe one more response if anyone would like to share.
Sorry, you want to go? All right.
I mean, just to say that I feel I've been very fortunate in that I haven't been affected anywhere near as badly as other people. And I think there are some positives that have come from it. And I think one of the things is just that thing of really appreciating what you've got and really counting your blessings. So yeah, I just feel so fortunate to have a house where I've had a room where I can work independently, you know, to have internet, to have somebody else in the house with me so I'm not on my own, to have a dog, all those things. So, you know, I guess that maybe leads on to the kind of how I've coped. I mean, some of it has been just being able to really trying to focus on the positives. And the other thing is just a huge gratitude for the technology. I don't know how we'd have managed without it, you know, so both professionally but also personally being able to use the technology to remain connected with people.
Great, thank you, Sarah. Time. What we wanted to do
Sometimes we lose you. I don't know if it's for the other people also like that. Digitally.
I'm not
sure whether people can hear me because I see my. Sometimes we hear you, sometimes you lose connection. Okay, am I back? Yes. No, yes. Is that a mind game, Michael?
Playing hide and seek.
Is that part of the exercise? Really.
Yeah, I think
now
so.
You're back.
They're testing me. You want to talk about resilience? All right, let's give you a test here. Yeah. I don't know. This system hasn't been very kind to me. But circles. Maybe just telling you like this is what we do a lot. So
that we come.
You can
share a little bit how it is for you in the groups that you
share with.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing because in circles, most of the time, then is the moment when we'll speak about something that we're struggling with. If we have like a fight or a disagreement with each other, that will be the place where we talk about it because then there's like a supervisor who will keep it calm.
Yeah, an educator who process or who is there near you to process everything and keeps it calm. Keep you calm. Yeah.
Katina, how is it for you? I mean, you're part of a lot of circles too in the week at work, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, the circles are mainly in families or, for instance, in groups of youngsters who live together in studios, but in one house. So, yeah, I'm really a huge fan of circles. But it's because I really believe that bringing people together and talk about things that that we feel, we notice when we live together. It makes some space. It makes also a connection between us, space to talk about things where there is some tension. And I really believe in it because also in my personal life, I use it in my own family. I'm really a huge fan of circles. Yes.
Great. I mean, we can talk a lot about how to run a circle properly, like what are the conditions to make sure that a circle works. I think the most important thing really is to set the boundaries and to make sure it's a safe place for people to speak, because obviously with young people who are always as respectful to one another, it's important to make sure that people people stay respectful to each other. You know, they're prepared to listen and because otherwise it becomes unsafe to share things that we talk about resilient circles. You know, it's about together and building that, making relationships stronger as a way to be resilient together, and it's not an individual process, but at the same time we're not resilient circles, but we call it circles of resilience. And what we actually talk about is a little bit, well, actually how we introduced this session. So actually we've been inspired by a Canadian teacher who came to visit our I think a year and a half ago, a conference here with it's also he was called and feel when we talk about it.
Yes, your connection is again unstable, Michael. Yes, so the model is FIDO 4, inspired by Canadian, and I think you're coming back. No. Whoops. That's strange. He's too far away from the server.
Okay, I see your suggestion. Me now?
Yes.
Maybe it's a good suggestion. Maybe I can switch off my camera if it continues to be a problem. But the thing, what Jim was talking about was maybe as a society we're focusing too much on the mind, on the thinking processes, on the talking, and you know that's not the best way to live our lives if we want to be more enough to deal with. So
spiritually disappear.
So
It doesn't work.
Michael, you disappear again. We lose your connection.
Zou hij niet weer terug zijn? Maar in ieder geval heel van niet weg.
Ja, maar ik kan dat net terug. Yes, now you're back again. So we heard that you were saying that we're not only focusing on the mind, but also have to focus on other stuff to be more resilient. And then we lost you, Michael.
Okay, and you can see me because I tried to switch off my. Okay, it's funny. Okay, so what we're trying to do now is when we come to work and when we work with groups, we try to leave lighter than when we arrived, and we can do this by focusing in our day also on the physical exercises, the healthy foods, the sharing about emotions, ways to deal with our emotions, and also to make sure spiritually we are being fed, meaning going outside, trying to relate to the things that surround us, going into nature, what we do quite often with groups as well, going into forests and just away from buildings and computers and tables and chairs, but just relate to the bigger picture. Maybe we also experiment with some of our groups with simple meditations, all kinds of ways to just to be in a different way and not just be from the head, but also from the heart. Now, I remember when we talked about this in preparing for this session, we talked about this with Fleur as well. And I mean, as one of our young people in our residential unit, and I remember you, Fleur, challenging us like, yeah, right. I mean, you can talk about these things and on paper, it looks like a beautiful model. But in practice, it doesn't seem to be that simple. I'm not sure, Fleur, do you want to say something about this?
Ik denk nog dat je studio en je wilt dat gezonde voeding en zo die voorbeelden dat je gaf, even met Sabine overgevallen. Zo, dat klinkt allemaal goed, die 4 domeinen, maar je moet dat nee, en een voorbeeld van gezonde voeding, dat je met 60 euro krijgt en dan 40. Dat is 40. Kunnen daar iets over zeggen? Dat is misschien wel een voorbeeld, allee, concreet.
So we talked about like the 4 aspects when we were practicing a bit, and they all said like, yeah, this is important, that is important, but then there was like a point like, you only get like 40 euros a week, and then they say you need to eat healthy. Have you been to the store to get healthy food? It doesn't work like that. You get that with 40 bucks. So
yeah, that was a good eye-opener, good feedback for us. So that's what Michael meaning with, like, in theory, great, but okay, then we have to also make sure that the conditions are there, not only for our employees, but also for our youngsters, our families, for society.
Dus het was sport, fysiek, cognitief en het gedrag. Spiritueel.
Nee. That's all, Michael.
Okay, good. Well,
He
thanks
doesn't
for
remember the
that.
other.
No, it's all right. I
It's
mean,
already
just,
3 in the afternoon.
and mostly it proved to us like we can try to.
and here we go again.
We can develop interesting models on paper, but of course they need to test the truth. You know, they need to test the reality today, and that's why it's so great to include people in the conversation and to see use these models to grow and to become a better organization for the people that we try to guide, but also for ourselves as employees working for the organization. So I think we now have a model that that will give us some direction for the next couple of years, and to find new pathways in developing how we live and work together. And hopefully this can be an inspiration for other organizations as well. And we hope to report on this in our newsletters and maybe other conferences that we share when we meet maybe next year, right? The
In
next
Belgium.
Euromet conference. Yes.
Yeah.
So I wonder if
Maybe
like
Michael. Yeah.
Go ahead, Tina.
No, I was thinking about our other exercise. Maybe we can do that but maybe it's not necessary yet.
As a way to close the session.
Maybe, I don't know.
Well,
I think
yeah, we
Glenn
can
is
do
waiting
this.
until he can do something for his screen. He really is excited and waiting like, come on, give me good exercise.
Okay, I can see you
And
feel
you
it,
know,
Tina.
I see it.
So go ahead, Tina. I'll follow you.
Okay. Last exercise, so everyone can stand again. We're gonna. We have to find our chi again, the power chi. You know the chi, like the big Buddhas in life, the chi force. So we have to stand like this. So do you see? So you bend your knees a little bit. One arm like this. Yeah, Michael, good. You can show it in a, yes, very good. One arm like this. And then we like this, and we shout out, hi! But now together. So we'll do it with all the force within you to really let out all the frustrations of the internet that doesn't work today. So let's do this. 3, 2. Oh yeah, but you have to put your micro on, guys.
Microphone.
They thought I wouldn't think of it, huh? But I did it. So 3, 2, 1. Kai! Another time. 3, 2, 1. Kai! Great. Okay, so that also is one of the 4 dimensions who makes us more resilient, huh? Of course. And it's funny.
I mean, we can do a lot of stuff like this, you know, like I think it was you, Glenn, who said like you have your small, your short workouts during your day. You know, it's things like that that keep ourselves balanced, you know, and that's what we need to find in our work. You know, we're sitting too much, we're thinking,
also in our teams,
we're talking too much. Yeah. All right. So is anybody, before we close, anybody who something about this, some idea you want to throw into the group, some feedback or question you have for one of us before we close?
I mean, just one question here. So with a lot of us in the way we work, we have individual children and young people who are referred in, and we work with them as individuals. There's a support worker who works with them. Now, we do have a young people's forum where we invite children to come together and to help. They give us feedback, they give us ideas, they tell us what's going on with them, but they don't have deep relationships with each other. Sometimes they've met each other before because they've come along previously. I'm just wondering, what pre-existing relationships do there need to be for you to be able to engage in resilient circles together?
Yeah, I would say none, really. You know, you can, with any new group, you can start to have circles. Of course, we need to set the boundaries and set the scene, you know, make sure that it's a safe space to talk about what's important for you. And so it means that we, as a facilitator, need to be really present, you know, and make it is safe for everybody. And, you know, confidence comes in small steps. So you cannot start with a big question, asking your deepest trauma in a group that you first want to get to know here in my group. And so we try to build this up step by step. But the role of the facilitator, of course, is very important.
Have you been able to do this? Sorry, excuse me, Tina, sorry.
No, go ahead, Sarah, go ahead. Maybe my next answer will be something. Go first.
I just wondered if you had been able to do this online or if it's something that actually involves physical presence.
Yeah, I mean, during the whole lockdown period, we had to reinvent ourselves in the way that we, like you say, Sarah, you say, I'm grateful for technology. You know, it has helped us to keep on having conversations with each other, but we also made choices to try to keep seeing each other live as well. You know, in the garden, with a big coat on and keeping some distance. So we've found it too important. Just so we've continued to have this kind of conversations also live. You know, even the teams, like Tina was saying. I mean, you said I'm grateful that I work for this organization because our policy has been for colleagues to keep seeing each other is essential. So we've been lucky in that sense too, because it's too important. Having a job that's not always easy, so you know, colleagues is very important to have that connection. And I mean, it's here the people who haven't seen each other for a year. I don't think we could have done our job if we wouldn't have seen each other. So it's a matter of choice as well.
Yeah, it's a matter of choice and make it happen. Make the conditions that it's reasonably safe. And what I want said before was like, of course, there is nothing I needed before, because also here in the groups, every day there can be new youngsters. That's true, Fleur, every day, because youngsters come in a crisis or in a timeout for 1 night, 2 nights, 4 nights. The group in the residential unit changes every day, and still we do circles twice a day. So every evening we do it, even if the group is different. But but you need educators who are also trained and experienced that, so that you feel safe. So there I follow Michael. You have to grow in it. But I think Fleur also something.
Well, I think you can do the circles like at every moment, but like you need to feel how the tension is in the group.
Yeah.
And you can have like supervisors that are really well known with this. Still, if feeling isn't there, it's not there, and you shouldn't go for something too high up.
No, and sometimes you need to. That's also setting boundaries and making it safe. So sometimes, as an educator, you have to say, okay, now we stop it. We go in 2 groups, or we first gonna talk to that and that youngster, because sometimes there's need to restore some other things first before we all go as a group together in a circle again. So, and in the teams also, I saw Kai, you asked for a document or something like how we do the circles, or
yeah, some kind of guidelines or some kind of background document about how you are using and when you are helping the new workers to work with circles. Do you have some kind of document or something on a paper?
Yeah, we actually during say something.
No, go, Michael.
During the lockdown last year, we took the time to write a lot. So we actually wrote 3 books last year and published them. But of course, they're in Dutch, so you wouldn't probably be able to understand.
Kai can
What's that,
speak
Kai?
a little bit Dutch.
Geen probleem.
He's fan of Antwerp. Yes.
Ehkä aina
Okay.
perpenaarin.
All right. Yeah. Well, feel free to get our book, or I mean, we did make a PowerPoint presentation for today, but we didn't manage to share it because it took too much of the space, and it has some principles on how to facilitate a circle, but it's very precise. I mean, but I mean, maybe we can find a way to share that with you. Not that it has that much information, but if you're interested in I mean, given that you also speak Dutch, I'll the chat. I'll share our website. It's Ligant. That's the team I work for. That's where you can find more of our publications and the trainings that we do. So yeah, happy. I mean, just if you have more questions, Kai, about this, you can send us an email too, and we can talk. We can continue the conversation like that.
Yeah, you can email Kai, and then because workers or the people who come to work here follow our traineeships. So they are trained by Ligand, but that's a training of 3 or 5 days. So to put it all in some documents is maybe a bit more difficult, but we can find a way to share maybe more than our PowerPoint in English. We can look into it.
Great. Okay. Anybody else would like to ask something or just make a comment before we close?
Just quickly, does family group conference kind of factor into any of the approaches that you take? I mean, you mentioned circles with families, but the actual family group conference process with private time and all that kind of thing. But does that kind of form part of how you might work with people, obviously the right context?
Yeah, you could say it's within a range of types of circles. I mean, Tina mentioned how our work focuses from being very preventative to being more responsive and restorative. You could say an FGC, a family group conference, is being run when there's a problem within the family with one of the young. So you could say that's a more responsive approach, which is important. Now, I mean, there's a couple of people trained in our organization to facilitate FGCs, but mostly what we do is there's an organization in Flanders that does nothing else than running FGCs. So typically when we have a situation, we refer the case to them because they have they have the perfect setup to run those type of conferences. But it's definitely on our scope of potential circles. Actually, in the PowerPoint, we made what we call the circles pyramid, and we talk about how you can do circles on the level of just building connection, all the way up to using circles to resolve conflict and everything in between. So, of course, most of the work should be on the base of the pyramid, building relationships, because that have less conflict within our organizations and teams. But yeah, it's a good example. It's an example of restorative circle for sure. Thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, I agree. Prevention's always better than cure, definitely.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. But sometimes it's difficult. If you're in the heat of the moment and you have a lot of, because we have a period also a lot in our group in the residential unit, and then sometimes it's difficult to get back to the baseline, to the living together that is good, but it's possible. But yeah, sometimes your pyramid changes, also in Oranjehuis, but we still have to work on that. Even after it's an everyday work with the group, yeah, and the team also, of course.
When you're talking too much about how will we deal with these conflicts, maybe we need to go to the foundations and wonder, where does it go wrong? You know, what's missing? You know, the word delinquency, if you listen to it, it has the word link in it, you know, so it means we get this kind of behavior because so that's, I think it's so important to work on building links, connection, relationships between the young people, family, between the counselor and the teachers and the youngsters. So it's all about relationships, you know. So
building a community. Better together.
Great, Tina. Okay, anyone else before we close? Final call? Okay, we'd like to thank you a lot for just this and being so silly to actually do jumping jacks and the ki and all of this. It's great to have people from all over the world just joining us and doing this stuff. But mostly, I also want to thank you, Fleur, for your interventions and making it real. You know, because I mean, we can talk about as counselors, but of course, the story is much more important to hear. So thanks for. Maybe we see each other next year, whatever. Have a good time and stay safe.
Yeah, Michael, you too. Thank you, all of you. You were awesome. To come to Belgium next year, you will get the invitation. Be there. It will be awesome again. Bye.